Because, I mean, you start the book, I should say, by talking about, obviously, Paul McCartney receiving the news, well, not receiving the news, but being interviewed about John's murder, and the sort of famous reply they go when he goes, "It's terrible," and he goes, "Yeah, it's a drag," which obviously, like, was quite bad, looked quite bad at the time. But I think when you delve into it and understand it, there's some people asking fucking stupid questions to a guy who should be in mourning for his friend, but also he hasn't processed it, really, has he, at that point?
No, I mean, one of the things about the Beatles is that they were kind of first to do so many things, right? You know, we talked about some of them, first kind of group to be performing their own songs more often than not, and first group to really kind of take the album as a form seriously, first. But they're also the first Beatles to be ex-Beatles, you know, the first people to be like primarily known for the group that you used to be in,
yes.
Right? And this was another horrible first, you know, and John's assassination, but also Paul having to respond to it.
Yeah.
And these days, if such a horrible event happened, there was a whole system and process. You know, you taken to, you know, the PR team would kind of draft an Instagram post,
yes.
and everything would be organised, and you don't just walk out and start talking to the press, you know, a few hours after you found out, with nothing to say except I want to get to my car, essentially, which is what happened to Paul, right?
Yeah.
And so he didn't handle it well. None of us would have handled it well. And so I start the book there because it seems to kind of, when people saw that, and still when people refer to it, it seems to kind of crystallise this sense that they really didn't like each other. Paul had no feelings for him, and Paul was a bit weird, shallow anyway. You know, what a terrible thing to say. But then when we come back, at the end, I come back to it at the end, and hopefully people have a much greater understanding of what was going on.
I think so, and also, like, and not without reason, like, 2 members of the Beatles have been attacked by mad fans, and you know, at that point you must have been also thinking, you know, Christ, you know, what's going to happen to me? The fear of that,
scary,
realising that can happen would be absolutely terrifying.